Hello, my name is Jacqueline Burkepile, and I am the editor for ChurchPOP with EWTN. I am here with actor and producer Kirk Cameron. You might remember him as Mike Seaver from Growing Pains or from his movie Fireproof. He is out with a brand new movie called Lifemark, and it follows the true story of a young man named David searching for his birth parents. Kirk is the executive producer for the film, and he plays David's adopted father. How are you, Kirk?
Hey, Jacqueline, I'm doing great.
Good.
Nice to be talking with you.
Yeah, I'm so glad that we could get you. I know you're having a lot of problems with your service, so let's just get right to the interview. So, Kirk, can you please tell us a little bit about this movie and this new movie and why you chose this story?
Sure. Well, the new movie is called Lifemark, and it's coming out in theaters on September 9th. And it is the story of one young woman's agonizing choice over what to do with an unplanned pregnancy, combined with the story of the joy of a brand new couple starting their family and the journey of a young man trying to discover the beginnings of his life. And like I said, it's based on a true story, and it is pro-family, it's pro-life, it's pro-love, pro-forgiveness, pro-reconciliation, and new beginnings. It's all about the value of life in the womb and the beauty of adoption.
And how did you come across this story? I watched both the documentary, and then I found out I didn't know much about it, so I went and I looked up the actual true the 30-minute documentary. So I watched the movie and documentary.
Good. Yeah, they're both great. And the way I came across it was someone sent me a text to a documentary called I Lived on Parker Avenue. And I was so impacted by this because I am a father of 4 adopted children. So my wife and I have 6 kids. We adopted the first 4, and my wife is herself an adopted child. So my 4 kids and my wife were 1 doctor appointment away from not existing. And if my wife had not been born, either would our 2 natural born children. So when I saw this movie about the value, the preciousness of life, and the impact that one woman's choice makes on countless numbers of lives, I wanted to turn it into a movie. And so I called my friends, the Kendrick brothers. They're the guys that made Fireproof, Courageous, War Room. And I asked them if they thought that I was crazy. And they said, no, in fact, we just watched the documentary and we want to make the movie with you. So now I play the adoptive father. Alex Kendrick plays the birth father. And this movie is just turned out to be the most moving, fun, funny, action-packed movie. It's coming out September 9th, and it couldn't be more perfectly timed. Jacqueline, think of this. Who would have thought in our lifetime that Roe versus Wade would be aborted from the law books? And right on the heels of this Supreme Court decision comes a movie in the theaters celebrating the value of life in the womb and the beauty of adoption. It is so perfect.
So were you anticipating Roe v. Wade being overturned before this movie?
No.
You had no idea?
We had no idea. We started making this movie 2.5 years ago. We couldn't have known. And we couldn't have timed this because our movie was delayed due to COVID and the pandemic shutdowns. So this Roe v. Wade decision, this was just a couple of months ago. And then here we are coming out in theaters right on the heels of that historic decision. So actually, God sets the timetable. We have our plans, but ultimately he determines our path. And I hope and pray that this is the beginning of our entire nation turning onto a path that celebrates a culture of life.
That is so providential. How amazing.
Yeah.
I had no idea. So that was actually going to be my next question about your adopted children. So did this movie, I'm guessing this movie did impact your decision to, or the story, because you have adopted children, impacted your decision to take on this story.
Absolutely. As an adoptive father and as the husband of an adopted woman, this story means so much to me personally, of course. But also, adoption is something that is often misunderstood and overlooked by so many in our culture. I've come to the understanding that many women who are faced with an unplanned pregnancy would rather abort their child than place their child for adoption, because somehow there's a stigma that birth moms feel like adoption is a morally worse choice, because it's like I'm abandoning my baby, so I'd rather just take care of it before it's born. But I believe that Lifemark will begin to shed some new light on this and help men and women all over the country and the world recognize that adoption is something that is precious in the heart of God. I mean, when we come to become children of God, it's by faith. When God adopts us into his family, he simply chooses to place his love upon us, not because of our race or our gender or because of our IQ or talents, due to nothing we've done to earn it, but simply by a choice of his love. And if adoption is at the center of God's heart, I think it ought to be at the center of our heart too. And Lifemark really highlights this. It puts it on display in full color. And if people watch this, I think they will come out with a heart 10 times larger, filled with how awesome and valuable life is and how we ought to protect it and preserve it.
Have your kids seen the movie yet?
My kids have not yet seen Lifemark, and I can't wait for them to. We've got some early screener copies of it now, but I'm having them wait till we go into the movie theaters, which I think is the best experience, particularly because you're going to be there together with like-minded people who are going to be erupting in applause and prayer in the middle of the movie theater and the lobbies. So get ready to build community as you watch Lifemark. And if you stay till the very end of the movie, after the film finishes, I come on together with the executive producers and a couple other people and begin to talk about resources. If you're interested in adoption, if you have questions about the ins and outs, the how-tos, the obstacles, and you want more information and resources and counseling or financial help or whatever it is, we're going to offer that at the end of the film.
What do you want your viewers to take from this, especially after the Roe v. Wade has been overturned, and there's probably going to be a lot of women already who need help, and just what are your thoughts on that?
So no doubt this is a historic moment with a law that has, a ruling that has effectively put abortion as a legal means of birth control across the nation. And the overthrowing of this law or this ruling simply takes the big national fight and turns it into 50 state fights, right? So abortion is not illegal across the nation. It's simply now for each state to decide as a people what they want to do with regard to the value of life. And what I think we need to remember is that our country does not become a good country or a great country based on the laws that it passes. It becomes good and great when it honors God, and that happens with the power of God working in the hearts of his people. So Lifemark, I believe, helps us to look at a difficult situation of an unplanned pregnancy through the lens of love. When you're faced with an unexpected situation, what do? Do you just try to look for a solution that solves a temporary fear or a temporary problem? Or do you say, wait a minute, let's look through the lens of love and solve the problem for the birth mother and the birth father? What resources and help and counseling do they need? What relationships would make a difference? And the baby in the womb who has an entire future ahead of him or her. How do we look with love toward him or her? And then what about those couples who are longing for children but cannot have them? How could this situation possibly be an answer to their prayers? And adoption comes rushing in with a solution that is glorious and beautiful. And one last thing, let me mention that if you think about it, Jesus Christ himself was the result of an unplanned pregnancy from Mary's human perspective. And Joseph had to step up to the plate with faith and adopt him into his family. Moses, if you think about it, was planned and scheduled to be aborted by government decree. And because of the faith of his mother, put him in a situation where he could be adopted. into a family and ultimately becomes the leader of Western civilization, if we could put it that way. So I hope that people watch Lifemark and they come away with a sense of gratitude that they've never had before for the gift of life.
Thank you so much for spreading the pro-life message.
Hey, thank you. And let me point out that if people go see the movie opening weekend, that can actually extend the stay into the theaters for longer and open up more theaters. So please go see it opening weekend, September 9th.